Behind the royal intrigue and Oscar glory of this medieval masterpiece lie some of the strangest stories in cinema history. From a 60-year-old actress swimming in freezing Irish seas twice daily to a future James Bond who turned down 007 after his film debut, to an Oscar winner who kept her statue in a paper bag for years. Here are the 15 weird facts you didn't know about The Lion in Winter, 1968. Fact 1. Hepburn's Oscar lived in a paper bag. Most actors who win an Academy Award display their golden statuette prominently on a mantle or in a glass case, but Katharine Hepburn had a very different approach to storing her third Oscar for The Lion in Winter. According to director Anthony Harvey, after he personally delivered the Academy Award to Hepburn following her win at the 1969 ceremony, the legendary actress did something that shocked him. She took the coveted trophy, placed it inside a plain paper bag, and tucked it away in a cupboard where it remained for years, essentially treating one of Hollywood's most prestigious honors like a bag of forgotten groceries. This wasn't just a temporary storage solution either. Harvey later confirmed that Hepburn kept the Oscar in that paper bag in her cupboard for an extended period, showing her famously indifferent attitude toward industry accolades and material recognition. The win itself was historic, as Hepburn tied with Barbra Streisand that year, making her the first three-time winner in the Best Actress category. Despite this remarkable achievement, Hepburn remained characteristically unimpressed by the physical trophy. This casual treatment of her Oscar perfectly captured Hepburn's no-nonsense personality and her lifelong disdain for Hollywood glamour and pretension. She had a well-known policy of never attending the Academy Awards ceremony, even when nominated, and rarely appeared on television during that era. For Hepburn, the work itself mattered far more than any recognition or award she received for it. The image of one of cinema's greatest actresses storing her Oscar in a paper bag alongside household items remains one of the most delightfully eccentric stories in Academy Award history, perfectly embodying her unique approach to fame and success. Fact 2. The only Best Actress tie in Oscar history. At the 41st Academy Awards ceremony held on April 14, 1969, something happened that had never occurred before in the Best Actress category and has never happened since. Katharine Hepburn for The Lion in Winter and Barbra Streisand for Funny Girl received the exact same number of votes, resulting in the first and only tie for Best Actress in Academy Award history. The accounting firm Price Waterhouse confirmed that they counted and recounted the votes multiple times. And the result was an exact tie, making this one of the rarest outcomes in Oscar history. What made this tie even more remarkable was the stark contrast between the two winners. On one side was Katharine Hepburn, a 61-year-old screen legend who had already won 2 previous Academy Awards and earned 11 Oscar nominations over her 4-decade career. On the other side was 26-year-old Barbra Streisand, who was winning for her very first film role, reprising her Broadway performance as Fanny Brice in Funny Girl. Streisand had been so new to Hollywood that she was admitted to the Academy before the film was even released, requiring special consideration since she didn't meet the usual requirement of 3 major film credits. When Streisand walked to the stage to accept her award, she briefly tripped on the bell-bottomed leg of her Arnold Scozzi-designed pantsuit, and upon reaching the microphone, she looked down at her Oscar and said her character's famous opening line from the film, "Hello, gorgeous." She graciously acknowledged the honor of being in such magnificent company as Katharine Hepburn. Director Anthony Harvey accepted Hepburn's Oscar on her behalf, as the actress maintained her long-standing policy of never attending the ceremony. Fact 3. Broadway flop became film triumph. The Lion in Winter had one of the most dramatic reversals of fortune in entertainment history, transforming from a Broadway failure into an Academy Award-winning film sensation. When James Goldman's play premiered at the Ambassador Theater on March 3, 1966, it was met with harsh reviews from critics, particularly a devastating write-up in the New York Times that severely damaged its prospects. The production managed to run for only 92 performances before closing on May 21, 1966, and lost a staggering $150,000, making it a genuine box office disaster by any measure. despite featuring acclaimed actors Robert Preston as King Henry II and Rosemary Harris as Eleanor of Aquitaine, who actually won a Tony Award for her performance, the play simply couldn't find its audience on Broadway and seemed destined to be forgotten as another theatrical misfire. However, producer Martin Pohl saw something special in Goldman's script and optioned it for film adaptation, believing that the sharp dialogue and complex family dynamics could translate powerfully to the screen with the right cast and director. The gamble paid off spectacularly when the 1968 film version, starring Peter O'Toole and Katharine Hepburn, became both a critical darling and a commercial success. The film earned an estimated $6.4 million in distributor rentals during its initial release year and became the 14th most popular movie at the United States box office in 1969. It received 7 Academy Award nominations and won 3 Oscars, including Best Actress for Hepburn, Best Adapted Screenplay for Goldman, and Best Original Score for John Barry, completely vindicating the material that Broadway audiences had rejected just 2 years earlier. Fact 4. Young. Christopher Walken's royal debut. Long before Christopher Walken became known for his distinctive voice and intense performances in films like The Deer Hunter and Catch Me If You Can, he was a struggling 23-year-old stage actor trying to make his mark on Broadway in The Lion in Winter. Walken landed the role of King Philip of France in the original 1966 production, performing alongside established stars Robert Preston and Rosemary Harris at the Ambassador Theater, but his journey in the show was far from smooth sailing. According to reports from the production, the young Walken was so nervous during the early performances that he nearly got fired from the show, with producers seriously considering replacing him because of his anxiety and uncertainty on stage. This was a make-or-break moment for the aspiring actor who had spent years working his way up through various theatrical productions and needed this Broadway opportunity to prove himself as a serious dramatic performer. However, Walken managed to push through his nerves and find his footing in the role, gradually gaining confidence as the production continued its short run. His perseverance paid off in an unexpected way when he was honored with the Clarence Derwent Award, a prestigious recognition given to promising young actors for their performances in supporting roles on Broadway. This award validated Walken's talent and helped launch his career despite the play's commercial failure. The role marked an important stepping stone for Walken, who would go on to make occasional returns to theater throughout his career while building his reputation as one of Hollywood's most compelling and unconventional character actors, proving that even near disasters can become career-defining moments. Fact 5. Hopkins' broken arm hidden in armor. Anthony Hopkins was making his major film debut as Richard the Lionheart in The Lion in Winter. But a dangerous accident during production nearly derailed his performance and caused significant delays to the entire shoot. While filming close-up shots of his character in full jousting costume and armor, Hopkins was mounted on a horse that suddenly became spooked and bolted unexpectedly, throwing the young actor from the saddle and causing him to fall hard to the ground, breaking his arm in the process. The injury was serious enough that filming had to be shut down for several weeks while Hopkins recovered, creating a scheduling nightmare for director Anthony Harvey and the production team, who had to rework their shooting plans around his absence. When Hopkins finally returned to set with his arm still healing, the costume and prop departments had to get creative to hide the fact that he was wearing a plaster cast underneath his medieval armor in multiple scenes throughout the remainder of the film. The concealment worked well enough that audiences watching the finished movie would never know about the injury, but the accident made certain shots extremely difficult and painful for Hopkins to perform. The scenes where Richard raises his sword above his jousting opponent were particularly challenging to execute, as Hopkins had to manage the weight of both the heavy medieval armor and the sword while dealing with a broken arm that was still in the process of healing. Despite the physical discomfort and the complications it caused, Hopkins pushed through and delivered a powerful performance that helped launch his legendary career, though he likely would have preferred to skip the horseback riding accident that complicated his first major film role. Fact 6. The Makeup Man's Poker Game. Revenge, one of the most memorable behind-the-scenes incidents during the production of The Lion in Winter, involved a missing makeup artist, an impromptu poker game, and Peter O'Toole's hilariously theatrical revenge. The trouble started when shooting on the dungeon scene was held up for several hours because the makeup man had completely vanished from the set, and Katharine Hepburn was waiting to have her makeup done before filming could continue with her scenes. Director Anthony Harvey and Hepburn spent considerable time trudging all over the castle grounds searching for the missing crew member, growing increasingly frustrated as the delay stretched on and the production schedule fell further behind. They finally discovered him in a remote corner of the location, sitting comfortably at a table playing poker with Peter O'Toole and several other crew members, completely oblivious to the chaos his absence had caused on set. O'Toole, knowing full well that he was partially responsible for the delay and anticipating that Hepburn would be less than pleased about the situation, decided to make a grand gesture of apology in the most dramatic way possible. During Hepburn's very next scene, which she was finally able to shoot after getting her makeup done, O'Toole staged an elaborate interruption by bursting through one of the dungeon doors completely wrapped from head to toe in bloody white bandages, moaning and groaning theatrically as if he were some kind of movie monster or mummy. The unexpected spectacle sent the entire cast and crew into gales of laughter, including Hepburn herself, effectively breaking the tension from the earlier frustration and turning what could have been an angry confrontation into one of the more lighthearted and memorable moments of the production. As documented in director Anthony Harvey's DVD commentary. Fact 7. O'Toole played Henry II. Twice in 4 years, Peter O'Toole accomplished something extremely rare in cinema history by portraying the same historical figure in 2 major Hollywood productions, released just 4 years apart, showing the character at dramatically different stages of his life. In 1964, O'Toole played King Henry II in Becket, depicting the monarch as a young, vibrant ruler who makes the fateful mistake of appointing his best friend Thomas Becket as Archbishop of Canterbury, which ultimately destroys their friendship and leads to tragedy. The film covered roughly the period from 1165 to 1171 and earned O'Toole an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. Then in 1968, O'Toole returned to the role of Henry II in The Lion in Winter. But this time he portrayed the king approximately 12 years later at age 50, now the most powerful monarch in Western Europe, but struggling with problems of succession and dealing with his imprisoned wife Eleanor and their scheming sons. The 36-year-old O'Toole was actually playing a character 14 years older than himself, and he was initially worried that he would look too young for the part of an aging king. However, O'Toole managed to convincingly portray the older Henry through his acting choices, moving and carrying himself like a man of 50, and with help from the makeup department plus the technique of rubbing dirt on his face and hands to create a weathered appearance. He also received another Academy Award nomination for this second portrayal of Henry II, making him one of the very few actors nominated for playing the same historical person in 2 different films. Fact 8. Hepburn was actually descended from Eleanor Catherine. Hepburn's casting as Eleanor of Aquitaine in The Lion in Winter turned out to be more historically fitting than anyone could have planned, as the actress was genuinely descended from the real medieval queen she was portraying on screen. Through extensive genealogical research, it was discovered that Hepburn could trace her ancestry back to Eleanor of Aquitaine through numerous family lines, making her a direct descendant of this powerful 12th century monarch who ruled as Queen of France and later Queen of England. What makes this connection even more remarkable is that Hepburn's lineage connected to Eleanor through both of the Queen's famous marriages, meaning she descended from children Eleanor had with her first husband, King Louis VII of France, as well as from children Eleanor had with her second husband, King Henry II of England. This dual connection through multiple branches of Eleanor's family tree made Hepburn's ancestral ties to the historical figure particularly strong and well documented. The coincidence added an extra layer of authenticity to Hepburn's performance, as she was literally playing one of her own ancestors in a role that seemed almost destined for her. Producer Sam Spiegel was actually aware of Hepburn's royal lineage when casting decisions were being made, and it likely played a role in her being considered a natural choice for the part alongside her immense talent and star power. Hepburn herself was fascinated by this genealogical connection and took great interest in researching Eleanor's life and character, bringing both her professional skill and a personal connection to one of history's most fascinating and powerful medieval women to create an unforgettable portrayal that earned her an Academy Award. Fact 9. Dalton turned down James Bond after his film debut. Timothy Dalton's performance as King Philip of France in The Lion in Winter was so impressive that it caught the attention of two of the most powerful producers in Hollywood and led to an immediate offer that would have changed his career trajectory completely. After watching the completed film, James Bond producers Albert R. Broccoli and Harry Saltzman were so impressed with the 22-year-old Dalton's screen presence and acting ability that they offered him the role of 007 as a replacement for Sean Connery in the upcoming film On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was scheduled to begin production in 1969. This was an extraordinary opportunity for a young actor making his film debut, as the James Bond franchise was already one of the biggest properties in cinema, and the role would have made Dalton an instant international star. However, Dalton turned down the offer because he genuinely felt he was too young to play the character, believing that James Bond should be portrayed by someone between 35 and 40 years old who could bring the necessary maturity and world weariness to the role. In a 1987 interview, Dalton explained his reasoning, saying that he did not want to take over from Sean Connery because Connery had been far too good and wonderful in the part. The role in On Her Majesty's Secret Service eventually went to George Lazenby, but Dalton's story with Bond wasn't over. Nearly 20 years later, in 1987, when he was finally the right age and the producers came calling again, Dalton accepted the role and starred in The Living Daylights and License to Kill, bringing a darker and more serious interpretation to the character. Fact 10. O'Toole lost the Oscar to Cliff Robertson's Campaign. Peter O'Toole's performance as King Henry II in The Lion in Winter was widely considered one of the best of his career, earning him the Golden Globe for Best Actor and overwhelming critical praise, which made him the frontrunner heading into the 1969 Academy Award ceremony. However, in a shocking upset, O'Toole lost the Oscar to Cliff Robertson for his role in the independently produced film Charlie, a result that immediately raised eyebrows throughout the film industry and led to some uncomfortable questions about how the vote had been conducted. Less than 2 weeks after the ceremony, Time magazine published an article that mentioned the Academy's generalized concerns about excessive and vulgar solicitation of votes during that year's campaign season. The article went further, stating that many Academy members agreed that Cliff Robertson's award was based more on promotion than on his actual performance, suggesting that an aggressive and perhaps overly enthusiastic Oscar campaign had swayed voters rather than the merit of the work itself. Adding to the controversial nature of the win, Robertson didn't even attend the Academy Awards ceremony because he was filming in the Philippines at the time and couldn't get away, which struck many as odd for someone who had mounted such an intensive campaign for the award. The loss was particularly disappointing for O'Toole because this seemed like his best chance to finally win a competitive Oscar after previous nominations, and losing under these circumstances to what many perceived as a campaign-driven victory rather than a performance-driven one made it even more frustrating for the actor and his supporters in the industry. Fact 11. The gargoyles were a lucky accident. The haunting stone gargoyles that appear prominently during the opening title sequence of The Lion in Winter, setting the dark and foreboding tone for the entire film, were never actually part of any medieval castle or historical location that the production team had scouted. Instead, director Anthony Harvey stumbled upon these grotesque sculpted figures completely by chance while shooting scenes at various locations in the south of France, near the town of Arles in Provence, where much of the film's exterior photography took place. Harvey discovered the stone sculptures sitting along an artist's driveway near one of the shooting locations, and he immediately recognized their visual potential for creating the ominous medieval atmosphere he was trying to achieve for the film. The director arranged to film the gargoyles in a way that made them look like they were ancient decorative elements mounted on the interior walls of King Henry's castle, using careful camera angles and dramatic lighting to photograph them gloomily and make them appear far more menacing and historically authentic than they actually were. Through clever editing and cinematography, Harvey incorporated these found sculptures into the main title sequence, where they became one of the film's most memorable visual elements, helping establish the dark, Gothic mood of political intrigue and family warfare that defines the story. The gargoyles worked so effectively in creating atmosphere that audiences watching the finished film would never suspect these supposedly medieval castle decorations were actually contemporary art pieces discovered by pure luck on a random driveway in France, proving that sometimes the best creative decisions come from unexpected discoveries rather than careful planning. Fact 12. Hepburn's frigid daily swim routine. Katharine Hepburn was 60 years old during the filming of The Lion in Winter, which took place during the cold winter months in Ireland, where the production was based at Ardmore Studios near the seaside town of Bray, just outside Dublin. Despite her age and the harsh weather conditions, Hepburn shocked everyone on set by maintaining an extraordinarily rigorous daily swimming routine that became legendary among the cast and crew who witnessed it firsthand throughout the production. To the absolute amazement of everyone working on the film, Hepburn swam twice every single day in the frigid Irish Sea, first taking a swim early in the morning before the day's shooting began and then returning to the freezing water again during her lunch break in the middle of the workday. The winter sea temperatures in Ireland are notoriously cold and uncomfortable, making Hepburn's twice-daily swims even more remarkable and demonstrating the incredible physical toughness and mental discipline that she was famous for maintaining throughout her entire career. This routine perfectly embodied Hepburn's lifelong philosophy about health, fitness, and pushing herself beyond what others considered reasonable or comfortable, traits that had defined her both personally and professionally since her earliest days in Hollywood. Peter O'Toole later said that despite her stern warnings to him about his behavior on set, Hepburn's vigor and energy helped restore his own vitality at a time when he really needed it. And her commitment to her rigorous swimming schedule, regardless of the weather, served as an inspiration to the entire production team about dedication and maintaining one's standards even under difficult circumstances. Fact 13. O'Toole and Hepburn's scheduling compromise. Katharine Hepburn and Peter O'Toole had completely opposite natural rhythms when it came to their peak working hours, creating a potential scheduling nightmare for director Anthony Harvey since the two stars shared so many crucial scenes together throughout The Lion in Winter. In a later interview, O'Toole revealed that the 60-year-old Hepburn was at her absolute best early in the morning, arriving on set fresh and energized and ready to deliver her most powerful performances in those early hours of the day, while he strongly favored starting work in the afternoon when he felt most alert and capable of doing his best work. This fundamental difference in their internal body clocks and preferred working schedules could have caused serious problems for the production, as forcing either actor to work during their least productive hours might have compromised the quality of their performances or created tension on set. However, both legendary actors recognized that the success of the film depended on their ability to work together effectively, so they came to a mutual compromise that accommodated both of their needs as much as possible under the circumstances. They agreed to shoot all of their shared scenes together from 8:30 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon each day, creating a middle ground schedule that allowed Hepburn to start early enough to capture her morning energy while also giving O'Toole enough time to wake up and get himself ready to perform at his best. This unusual accommodation demonstrated the professionalism and mutual respect between the two actors, and it proved successful as their on-screen chemistry became one of the film's greatest strengths, showing that sometimes creative compromises lead to the best results. Fact 14. Costumes worn for days to look dirty. Director Anthony Harvey and art director Peter Merton made a deliberate decision to present medieval life in The Lion in Winter as authentically gritty and unglamorous as possible, completely rejecting the sanitized and overly romanticized view of the Middle Ages that most Hollywood period films had traditionally presented to audiences. They wanted to show that even though the principal characters were royalty, they actually lived in drafty, dirty castles with primitive conditions rather than the spotlessly clean and perfectly maintained environments that movies usually depicted. To achieve this level of authentic medieval grunginess and make the world feel genuinely lived in rather than artificially staged, the costume department implemented an unusual practice that required the actors to wear their costumes for extended periods before actually filming their scenes. The actors would put on their medieval garments days in advance and continue wearing them through rehearsals and preparation time, allowing the fabrics to naturally accumulate dirt, develop wrinkles, show signs of wear and tear, and take on the soiled and frayed appearance that clothing would have realistically had in the 12th century. This commitment to visual authenticity extended to every aspect of the production design, with the sets featuring dirt floors, weathered stone walls, and minimal decoration to emphasize the harsh realities of medieval castle life, even for the wealthy and powerful. The approach paid off beautifully, as the film's gritty aesthetic helped ground the story in a believable historical reality and made the political intrigue and family drama feel more immediate and visceral. The dirty, worn costumes contributed significantly to creating a world that looked authentically medieval, rather than like actors playing dress-up in freshly laundered period clothing. Fact 15. The film was originally called The Ski Bum. The Lion in Winter almost never happened, because producer Martin Pole was originally committed to making a completely different film with Peter O'Toole and producer Joseph Levine, and that project was supposed to be their next major collaboration together. The film they had planned was called The Ski Bum, which was being written by William Goldman, a successful playwright and screenwriter who would later become famous for writing Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid and The Princess Bride, among many other acclaimed films. Interestingly, William Goldman was the brother of James Goldman, who had written the original stage play of The Lion in Winter that had struggled on Broadway just a couple of years earlier. While Pole and his team were in pre-production for The Ski Bum, with O'Toole attached to star, the project suddenly fell apart for reasons that were never fully explained publicly, leaving Pole without a film to make, and O'Toole without his next role lined up. Pole had previously read James Goldman's play The Lion in Winter and absolutely loved the material despite its poor reception on Broadway, believing that it could work brilliantly as a film with the right cast and approach. With The Ski Bum no longer happening, Pole suggested to Levine and O'Toole that they pivot to making The Lion in Winter instead, and everyone agreed that this was the perfect alternative project. Pole hired James Goldman to adapt his own play into a screenplay, and the rest became cinema history, resulting in an Academy Award-winning film that launched multiple careers and became a beloved classic, all because a ski-themed movie never made it to production.